Hello, once again, here we are. We're reading once again Roman Rudin's short stories, and this collection is called Strange Occurrence in the Region of the Heart. Today's one is once again this story here, Lautréamont. I think I'm missing out the A actually, so I should be more like something like Lautréamont. Lautréamont, I think it is. Okay, I probably haven't got much of a trill on my R. So, so Ruslan, how is your French pronunciation? Mine is very, very
Mhm.
severely lacking. Do you have any sort of skills in speaking French or?
Oh no, I think yeah, my French is very bad.
No,
Yeah.
okay. Do you speak German, do you? Or what is your native
I can
language?
my native language is Ukrainian, but as
Oh,
well I can speak Russian because it is my
mm.
second language, and I can speak Polish.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And yeah, I try to improve my English, yeah, because my
Mm,
level is not so well, and I do really want to speak well
mm.
in English.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sure you are doing pretty good well now, I would say. Okay,
Yeah,
so
thanks.
So this section here, then, on the left-hand side, do you want to give that a go, as we were just talking about, as we were just suggesting before? Over to you then.
Yeah, okay, okay, no problem. Yeah, a Lutremont, a Lutremont. At the very beginning of the century, when the internet had not yet been banned, a curious work came into my hands by a known inventor who claimed that he had constructed an instrument which could transmit small uniform object any distance using existing lines of communication. In this article, the author describes in detail the operating principle of this device. uh, presented some drawings and declared that the first experiments had been successful. He had managed to transmit a silver ingot into ingot in about 10 grams from the laboratory in France to his other laboratory in Argentina. The silver atoms had been turned in the transformer into streams of three electrons, protons, and neutrons, and pass through the wires to the same apparatus, apparatus at the other end of the world, where they were once again turned into atoms.
Mm. Yes. Yes, nice reading. You read it nice and steadily. It wasn't going too fast, and it was a constant pace. That was good. Nice. I could understand everything, I would say.
Thanks. Thanks.
Very good. Um, I think we've talked about ingot before. Do you remember what an ingot is? Ingot. I think you said it quite well, I think. So this was a silver ingot. Do you remember what an ingot was?
In God, it is a piece of metal. Yeah, we can say
Mm.
like this.
Mm. Um, it's sort of, yeah, kind of, yeah. It's not very descriptive to say it's a piece of metal, though. It could be almost anything could be a piece of metal, and a key for my front door is a piece of metal, but it's not an ingot, that's what that would be. Um,
Yeah.
so any other way of
I-
describing what an ingot is,
uh,
do you think?
okay, I will describe it like a, mm, not so big piece of valuable metal.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, so his one is about 10 grams. So that's actually really quite small. It's presumably the size of a coin, maybe. A coin,
yeah,
one patch, just one 10 pence coin or 50 pence coin that we have in the UK. Yeah. But when it says ingot, that is doesn't really t it normally with just that word on its own doesn't really tell you how big it is. But it's saying something about what it is and what it's used for. Normally, an ingot, and especially when it's say a silver ingot in particular, I should say, or silver or gold, it's just a store of value. So, and really, an ingot is something. When I say an ingot to any English person in the street, they would probably have in their mind a gold bar. So it's like a gold brick, like a house brick, like when you build a house out of bricks.
yeah,
It's something
yeah, yeah,
vaguely
yeah.
like that, but it's a different sort of shape, perhaps slightly longer, maybe. And obviously, it's gold or silver rather than colored like a brick or something. Um, so maybe we just actually search that. I think you probably know what I'm talking about. So if I say gold ingot this time, because that's most people think of gold as being valuable, and everyone wants a gold ingot, I guess.
I
So
think it should be
here we go.
1 kilo.
Well, I wish I had a kilo gold bar. So yeah, this guy is holding one in his hand, and
Yeah,
that's what most people think of as a gold ingot. And so
yeah,
this is not 10 grams. This is several kilos, perhaps
yeah,
20 kilos, I'm guessing, looking at the size of it. And as it says there, so a gold ingot, also known as a gold bar. That's exactly. Some people say gold bar, could be gold ingot. But normally when we say ingot, it's a little bit of a technical term. Some people don't really know exactly what it is, but often with the word ingot, it's used when you've just melted down a whole bunch of waste gold or little bits of gold, and you're melting it down into one big gold bar or gold ingot. And the same could be true of other metals too. So the final use of this thing, which is in the gold bar shape, might not be in that final shape in the end, but it's just a way of conveniently putting it into that sort of mold, that size, melting it down and carrying it around like that. Next month they might want to make, say, with the gold bar, might want to make some sort of electronic devices with it, I should say. You also might get aluminium ingots too. And in a month's time, they might melt it down and make some silver foil to wrap your chicken in or your Sunday lunch in. So they put it into a gold ingot or a bar. I say gold, it could be aluminium or even steel ingots, I think. Um,
yeah. But I think as well
it's just a
that
convenient shape. Yeah, sorry, yeah, you were saying?
yeah, I think for this I should know how to do it because I have no idea how, how to make some piece of metal in
Mm.
one ingot. Yeah, because normally it should be with help by some machine
Oh,
or
yes,
yeah,
definitely, yes. You have to melt it down. I don't know
yeah,
what temperature it melts at, but it's probably
yeah, and
well below 2000 degrees. So I'd say 1,500 degrees centigrade, which you could probably get that in your microwave if you wanted to. A little bit dangerous in your microwave, but you could do that. So as we scroll down, so it's the same picture again, but you can see that is huge. I don't really believe that is gold because I don't, because it looks too scratched, to be honest. And it hasn't got quite the right color either, I think. But you can see here there are different sizes here. There's a
Mhm.
sort of biggish one, then some small ones, and some really dinky ones. And one look like just like little drips or or circular ones actually, don't they? And so if you're investing in gold, I believe you can get these different sizes. Not that I
Yeah,
own any gold. Well, that's not true actually. Someone did go on holiday and they bought me a little gold thing, but it was absolutely microscopic. But it was, a very nice gesture, though, I think, isn't it?
yeah, but you know what? I know that there is a different kind of ingot
Hmm.
because it depends of quality probably
Yeah, there's that too,
of
isn't there? Yeah. Mm.
uh,
They all seem to have a slightly different color, don't they? They're not all exactly
yeah,
the same
yeah.
color. Yeah. And I don't know. There's something odd about that one. I'm not convinced that it's even gold, that one. It might be. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but it just doesn't look quite right. But there we go.
Yeah, but for example, if someone wants to buy this ingot and keep it where at home, yeah, it is not not safety because if someone find out that you have some
Hmm.
piece of gold and
Well, yeah.
yeah, it is
Don't tell
dangerous.
anyone. Don't tell anyone I have gold in my house. No, no, it's almost unheard of for people to have gold in their house, I would say. I mean, but I guess that maybe some people do. But you
I
wouldn't tell people,
think.
would you?
Yeah, but I think, for
Mm,
example, if you keep money in a bank, yeah, and
mm,
as well, if you buy the gold, you will
mm.
keep the gold as well in a bank, I think. It is the
Yeah, I believe
same.
so. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they do have safe deposit boxes, little sort of slots that you might have a
Yeah,
key to, and you open it up, and there it is. Sometimes you see them in films, these little safe deposit boxes. Oh, well, fun
yeah,
over. Back to the story again. Okay. So, so, so once again, so this is a 10-gram one. This is really tiny as a silver ingot. So, yeah, so the ingot kind of says, doesn't really say a great deal, but it's like a small, very, very small gold brick in some sense, or silver brick, I should say. So we've got there eventually. Um, So were there any words there that you wanted to go particularly over that you thought they were tricky for you? Again, you weren't quite sure of or hadn't seen before?
yeah. I would like repeat uh, the author or of author. Uh, this is
That,
in this article. No, no, no.
right.
Second paragraph.
Oh, well, this is the author here. This is
Yeah,
Roman
also,
Rudin is the
also.
author.
I- Yeah, it is
That's the
difficult
author.
to say this word. It is difficult to say to me. Uh,
So which one? I've gone a bit too fast. Do you mean this Lautréamont here, or do you mean the
no,
Roman Rudin?
no. I mean exactly the author. The author.
Which one? Which one do you mean then? You find this
Uh,
difficult to say, really?
no, did I say correct? The author. The
Well,
author.
this is the author here. This is the
Oh,
author.
also,
This
yeah.
person here is a man. He lives in the far east of Russia, as my information goes, and he wrote 10 stories. And this story here, where you just read the first part, this is the first story, and this first story is called, this is the name of the story, not the author, but the story is called Lautréamont. Lautréamont. I'm not saying the R quite right, but there we go. Yeah, so when you said this word here, I noticed you sort of did pronounce the T on the end, um, and this is really a French name, and in this particular style, you really wouldn't say the T, but the N would be sort of pronounce the N through your nose, if that makes any sense, and you don't say the T. So it's more like if I just say these last four letters, Mont. If I pronounce them for you, it comes out as Mon, Mon, Mon. So it's a bit tricky. There's nothing in English quite like that sound, I would say. So, and it is French. It's a French name. You'll probably never see this name ever again, in all likelihood, unless you keep reading this story. Um, And with the French, they do. There's an R here, so when they say the R, it can be trilled. So that means a sort of a guttural sound when the French say it, pronounce letter R. But say for the British in R's down here, say there's an R in very right here. We do not put a trill in the same way that the French do on the R. So it's a completely different way of pronouncing sounds, which makes it difficult. So the French are different from the English, and again the German are different from the English. The Belgians are a little bit sort of in between the two, you might say. Some people would say anyway. The Spanish are different again, and the Italians are different too. So it's a bit tricky. But being living in Europe, I think we all have a little bit of an understanding of each of our languages around us. And we might be able to recognize, oh, this person's talking Dutch or Spanish or whatever it is, or Norwegian even. Um, yes. So we could do this name if you wanted, but you probably never see this name ever again. It's a very unusual name. Um, so
Yeah.
we'll just do it once or twice then, but we won't try to
Yeah.
perfect it. That's okay. So m I would say this as Lu. This first bit is Lu, Lau. I'd say is Lu. Then I'm saying the T and the R together. Lu très, très. I'm getting it now. So the T is of a T sound, but the R is more this sort of a sound. I'm overdoing it a little bit there. So Lu très. And I think he probably meant to say the A slightly louder. So Lautréamont, Lautréamont. I think that's how you pronounce that. So it's
Okay.
tricky. Do you want to give it a go? So Lautréamont.
Lautréamont.
Yeah.
Lautréamont.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lautréamont.
Yes, probably. Yeah, that Lautréamont would do, I would say. Yeah, Lautréamont. That's probably good enough, to be honest. Yeah. Because we're not doing French today. Indeed, I don't speak
Yeah.
French. It's not a skill I have, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah. How about a laboratory? A laboratory. Is it
Yes.
okay? Is it
Um,
okay? Yeah.
I think when you said it, when you read it out, I think you sort of said it the American way, or
Ah.
closer to the American way. Because again, Brits and Americans, we have a lot of similar words, or the same words, really, I guess, but we tend to pronounce it just ever so slightly differently. But it was good enough. I could understand it. It was slightly American.
Yeah.
So, so at the end, there's these four letters again. So it's obviously it looks like Tory if you look at it on its
Mm.
own sort of thing, and that's pretty much how the Americans say it. The Americans will say laboratory, laboratory.
Mm.
But the way the Brits say it is more um, like laboratory, laboratory. So at the end, we don't say tree at all. We don't say Tory. We say tree. I know it's nuts. It doesn't look anything like tree. So we say TREE, tree, like a tree growing in a field in the garden somewhere. We say Tory as tree. I know it's nuts. In sound terms, they're the same. Not the same, but we say one for the other, I should say. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
do you want to give
Yeah.
that a go? So everything else was right, but just the last little bit at the end, you sort of said it the American way. So laboratory. Do you want to give it another go? Laboratory.
Yeah. A laboratory.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Laboratory. Yeah.
Laboratory. So it's just like a tree in
Laboratory.
a
Yeah.
park somewhere. A
Yeah.
tree. Yeah. Um, and I think pretty much everywhere you see in English this Tory at the end of a word,
Yeah.
we almost always say it as tree. And
Right.
the Americans say it as
Okay.
tarry, but we say as tree. Trees. I know it's
Okay.
nuts.
Good.
So I don't have one of these, but a friend of mine has what's called a conservatory.
Oh.
Conservatory. And again, that ends with this Tory at the end. So I just try to I just spell it out here, maybe, if I can correctly spell it. Conservatory. That's how the Americans might say it. So it's a longish word. So we say conserva. We say everything that's exactly the same. But we get to the Tory, we say tree.
Yeah.
So do you want to say this one
Okay.
as well here? So conservatory. Do you want to say that one too?
Conservatory.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So pretty much everywhere you see Tory at the end of an English word, the Brits say it as Tory, but the American no, I got it wrong round. The Brits say it as tree,
Yeah.
and the
Okay.
Americans say it as Tory. Tory. Okay. Um,
Yeah. Nice. Thanks.
yeah.
About this turned. Is it sound good? Yeah.
Are you saying turned? This word here, turned.
Turn. Yeah. Turn. Yeah. Need turn.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. What
Yeah.
about
Is
it?
okay. Yeah. Turn.
Um.
Because not
hmm,
every time I can say it correctly. I can one time I can say turn. The second time I can say turn, and yeah, like this.
yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It's got the R in there, and the R is a tricky sound. And if you look at it, the previous words had this R in it as well, so it is tricky. But it is a common letter too, so it's just by sheer accident it might have it in. Oh, so this is Collins' dictionary. So maybe, well, let's just bring up a new version of it. I've got a link to it here, so just click on the dictionary again. Oh, that's right. We played around with the word further, didn't we? I think.
Uh, yeah, this from yesterday.
Let's look at turn. So I'm saying turn, turn. Mm,
So
so what they're saying here, let's listen to them first of all.
turn,
Turn. Oh, oh, it's failed again, isn't it? So maybe there's some sort of a problem with the dictionary, perhaps at the moment. So if I write it out, let's forget the dictionary for the moment. So here it is here, turn. Although there's an R here, if you listen to when I'm saying it's kind of hard to hear. Is there really, am I really actually pronouncing an R sound? Some people do say definitely, you can definitely hear a bit of an R, the R sound like a R kind of a thing. But I don't really think I'm saying much of an R sound at all. So a lot of the Brits, we kind of don't really say a lot of the letters. We don't really pronounce them very well. And we sort of have our own way of pronouncing it, just like this other word here, conservatory. The Americans are correct, really, and the Brits kind of made up their own little special sound at the end. But that's what we all do. But to explain that a little bit is that when we have these two letters in the middle, I think probably what would happen is if we went, both of us went to school, primary school, they would explain how to sort of pronounce this, and what they would say is those two letters together, the U and the R, make one sound. And it's not really a U sound, it's not really an R, it's its own little sound. Um, and I would say the sound there is sort of an kind of a sound, sort of an, to make it simple, it's a kind of an uh. And see, is not a U and it's not an R, is it? Because R is r or something
yeah.
like that. So, but it's not So, so really, in the middle, I'm saying Could you just make an sound? Just
Oh,
to make it uh.
oh, oh,
A bit louder. I can't hear you. Sorry.
oh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it. I think pretty much. Yeah. So really, that's all I'm doing. So I'm putting a T sound at the beginning, so a t, t then an then an mm. So t
Mm.
turn, turn. Do you want to give that a go? Turn
Turn,
and again.
turn,
Yeah,
turn,
yeah, yeah. That sounds pretty good. Yeah,
turn,
I'd accept that. Turn. Yeah. Uh,
turn.
um, yeah. So just to go in a little bit more sort of technical detail. The sound. the name, there's a special name for that one sound in the middle where the U and the R are here. Again, as I say, we don't really pronounce the U and the R. We see the U and R together and we think, oh, it's that weird sound, that sound. And the name of that sound is the. I'm trying to, I'm not sure I can even spell it actually. It's the sh.
Uh,
Is that how
what?
it's spelled? Did you say it just then? Yeah,
Is
it's the
what?
schwa sound. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I heard, yeah,
Oh,
something, but
oh.
I don't remember exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, so
how, yeah.
that's it. I think the most common sound in the English language, in all the words and all the words we say, it's this schwa sound. Schwa. It's this UR sound in the middle. But although here it's written out as UR, it could be almost any letter. So we were doing further yesterday. So if we tap out
Mhm.
father, as in mother and father, the ER on the end is the schwa sound now. So yeah, does that make sense? I know you've
Yeah,
got to look out
yeah,
for it really. It's not obvious. There's no sign. And of course the Americans, they still use the schwa sound, but nowhere near as often as we do. So they don't really say the schwa sound on the end. They don't make this kind of a sound.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I'm making it very complicated, but I don't know if that's
No,
helping.
it is okay. Yeah, it is okay.
Yeah, this is one of the problems, isn't it, with language? It's just an awful lot to do, isn't there? There's lots of new ideas to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And for me, it's the difficult to understand the accent because every person has
Yes,
their own accent, and yeah,
mm,
it is really quite
there is a
difficult.
variation. Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you speak to someone in London, they will tell you one
yeah,
way. If you speak to someone
yeah,
in Birmingham, they will tell you another way, and in Scotland, yet a completely different way further again. Yes, very true.
yeah.
And of course, Americans again are different. Um, so you'll be saying that schwa sound, the and even it's not quite it's more of a it's more of a sound, I guess, really. It's more of an but will do for the moment, and I think you'll get it in time, I'm sure. It's really just copying other people. It's really just
Yeah,
copying
yeah.
other people. So maybe what we could do is, so maybe there's a couple of other words I noticed. We'll look at a couple of other words. I think the word, so there's this word here. So where my cursor is, so I pronounce this as unknown, unknown.
Mm,
So when somebody has no knowledge of something,
yeah,
you can say it's unknown to them at least. Um, and in this case, it was the
unknown. Yeah,
person was unknown. Okay. So do you want to say that word again? Unknown. Unknown.
unknown,
Yeah, that's it.
unknown.
That's spot on. That's really good. That's absolutely perfect, I would say. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but before I usually said unknown. Oh no, I usually unknown, unknown. Yeah, a
That's
little bit
pretty. That's
different. Yeah, pretty. Yeah, but not exactly like you.
yeah. And it's hard to remember how you said something in the past, isn't it? So I think because it's very
Yeah,
confusing.
yeah,
We
yeah,
could
yeah,
always
yeah,
go back into the recording on
yeah,
YouTube and say, "Oh, there it is there."
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
yeah,
too much faffing around just for a small detail.
yeah,
So it might
yeah.
be interesting to do that. Yeah, but there's a sort of a U's and there's lots of N's in it, isn't it? So there's lots. It's a very confusing sort of a
Mhm.
word, isn't it? Um, yeah, so it's a weird kind of a word. I think it's a weird word anyway. Um, and you were talking about the author, and we're saying that
Oh,
you're saying
yeah.
this was the you seem to be saying this was the author, but really this is the title. I would give this the title of the
Mm.
story, or perhaps the name of the story, maybe. But really, it's the title, I would
Yeah.
guess. Um, but the word author is also in the text here too. So, do you fancy saying?
Author.
And again,
Offer.
author.
Offer. No, the offer. The
Mm,
of the offer.
okay. It's getting there. It's getting there. So
Yeah, yeah.
let's just do, I think you're saying the author as well. So maybe just stick to author for the moment. Just try to keep it as simple as possible. So that's my attempted spelling at the word schwa, and I've misspelled the word schwa, so ignore that for the moment. So author, that's our word we're looking at. Um, so perhaps you could split up into three sounds maybe. So it's got this AU at the front at the beginning. And really, although it's AU, you could sort of pronounce that as like or, as in OR. Do you know the word OR, or? So
Mhm,
although it's AU, we're really saying or at the front here. Or. Nice easy
mhm.
sounds, yeah.
Oh,
Or. And again, pretty much everywhere you see AU at the front of a word, it comes out as or, or. The same with the month of the year, August.
oh, ghost. How
It's
about
got this
authority?
or. It's always or at pretty much always or there when it's AU at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Forgive my spelling. I'm always sticking odd letters in there by
Mm.
accident. So tell me if I'm wrong or something. So AU comes out as the sound or. Um,
Okay.
I notice when you are reading, the TH sound seems tricky for you. You haven't quite got the TH
Mhm.
sound. So
Yeah.
it's very common in English. So we probably aren't going to get it now. So we'll leave it for the moment, maybe. And at the end, this is going to sound strange. There's OR there. So you might think, oh, we're going to say
Mhm.
or again. But no, we're
Mhm.
not, strangely. Believe it or not, that sound there, it's once again the schwa sound. It's that on the end there, it's because the schwa
Mm.
is sort of an sound, yeah. So I'm saying go for the whole word again from the beginning. So I'm saying or, then I'm making sort of a th sound for the th, and then so author, 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 author,
Oh,
author, author.
oh,
Want to give it a go?
oh,
Author.
offer, offer.
Yeah, okay. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. So in the middle, you're making an F sound. And some
Oh,
people do say that. My brother would say that. And some others perhaps in East London would tend to say an F for the TH. So you can get away with that for the moment. But one problem is that TH is so common, it would be good at some point if you sort of eventually get that sorted out because it's in the word the and the and thought, all sorts of words it's in. So eventually you'll have to come round to, if you want to, of course. It's down to how much time you put into it, I guess, really. So do you want to give that one a couple more goes? The word author, maybe. So author.
that is okay.
I didn't hear anything actually. It was totally silent.
Really?
Oh,
Really? Okay. Offer,
yeah.
offer.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's really quite good. Yeah. I like that. That's good actually. That's good. Yeah. You remind me of my brother. That's how he would say it actually. That's good. Author. Author. Yeah. Okay. Well, we spent a good few minutes on that now. It's only about 10 minutes of the class left, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
So what we could do is we could go back over the words we've just looked at. We won't do Lautréamont again because Lautréamont
Mm.
because it's such a tricky word and it's in a
Yeah,
foreign
yeah.
language. You won't ever use it. So maybe this one here, where my cursor is.
Okay. Unknown.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's good. Good. Very good. Well remembered. Well remembered. And I think then perhaps we did this one down here. So
Laboratory.
yeah, that's it. Good, good. Well done. Laboratory. That's it. Well done.
Laboratory.
Yeah. So it's sort of tree on the end. Tree. That's
Yeah.
it. And the other one, of course, was I've lost it already. There we go. That one there.
Offer.
Yeah, that's really good
Offer.
actually. Yeah, author. Yeah, author. Um, and maybe
Turn.
next. Yeah.
Turn. Yeah. Do you remember?
Oh yes,
Do
we
you
did.
remember
Yes.
about? Yeah. Uh, turn.
Yeah.
Turn.
Yeah, that's it. That's good. That's pretty good
Yeah.
actually. Yes. Turn. Turn.
Turn.
So in the middle, it's that sort of a sound again, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Turn. That's it. Well done. That's good. You've got a good memory. Yeah. I think you have a good memory. I think you're probably well suited for learning new languages. You already seem to know three, I think. You're learning a fourth one now. Well done. Very good.
And,
Or maybe one final word to look at. We again, there's a little bit of a technical word. If you remember last time, it came up. So if you're a scientist, you probably use this word all the time, but most people in everyday language, you just wouldn't really use it. So it's a little bit technical. It's like jargon. So this is the equipment you might sort of set up if you're doing a special sort of scientific experiment. You might use this word. And of course, this man is a scientist, isn't he? So that's why he's using it. So we say something like apparatus.
uh,
Appar apparatus.
apparatus.
Yeah. And again,
Apparatus.
yeah, that's good. So I'll say it once more, then it's your go finally. So apparatus. Your go, apparatus.
Apparatus.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Apparatus.
Yeah. So at the beginning, I'm saying app. You know, on your phone, you have dozens of
Yeah.
apps. So that's what I'm saying
Yeah.
at the beginning. So I'm saying app, apparatus, something like that. Apparatus. There's
Apparatus.
yeah, apparatus. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Well done. There is another way of pronouncing it, but that's the most common way I would suggest. Yes, fantastic. Anything else you want to go back over there?
I think no. I
Yeah.
think no.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think that's all I really noticed that was sort of that's worth going through right now, I think. Um, so we've gone over this story before. So any comments about the story itself? Anything that doesn't quite make sense to you in the story? So we've done all the pronunciation. Let's leave that to one side for the moment. So maybe just think about the story. So this is a chance for you to do a little bit of thinking and also for you to practice your sort of English conversation.
Mm,
So
Yes, I would say that this is a text, yeah, show us about some previous experience who had done in a French laboratory, yeah, and. There was complicated for me, because there
mm,
is a lot of information, and I
mm.
can't. Yeah.
It's a lot to take in, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. There is a lot of,
Mm.
yeah. For example, if I do this step by step, yeah, I can retell it with more details. But now
Mm.
it is refresh all from yesterday. It is for me looks like unbelievable something.
It is unbelievable. Yes, the whole thing's unbelievable. Yes. There's some sort of complicated ideas in there. Some very complicated ideas.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
probably a higher level of English. Yeah,
Yes, it's fairly high level, I would say. Yes, I wouldn't say it's
yeah,
simple. Yeah, I wouldn't say simple.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, but
It's
how about
mm,
your opinion? What do you think about this text? Yeah, and
mm.
did you find out something new for you through this text or something else?
It's it's hard to say really. It's made me think about how and
Yeah.
how people do write a story. did the author, did he sort of leave gaps in the stories to make people just think about things? So
Mhm.
if there's an air of mystery about something, it has people thinking about it afterwards. If everything is explained, then there's nothing to think about, is there? So you end up doing something else. You watch television or you
Yeah.
do the washing up or something,
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than sort
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
put your hand on the side of your face and think about it. What was going on there? Yeah. So it does seem as almost as if there are sort of holes left in the story almost intentionally. So I wondered if that's like a technique or something. So, and
Yeah.
also, I suppose also as we said before, so it's translated from Russian into English.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so would that put holes in the story? Because it's almost impossible to translate perfectly from another language. There always something always gets left behind, a little bit gets left behind. Um, but maybe you're probably the best person to work that out for me. I wouldn't know. I have trouble speaking English, really. Definitely French, but yeah. It is quite fascinating. Yeah, it is fascinating. I think it's an interesting story. Yeah, I think credit to the writer. So if you were going to give a score out of five or what score would you give it out of five, say? Five out of five, two out of five, three out of five as a story?
Uh, yeah, I would say yeah, it is a five from five. Or
Really, five out of five, yeah.
yeah, because you know what, it makes me to think, yeah, about
Mm,
this, and it is not easy to understand at once. You need
mm,
to take a time, and yeah, but you know what? I would like to have some consequence, some consequences of this because I want to know if my thoughts is right or I was mistaken in some details, you know. But
yes.
it was not given for us. Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, that's very, very true, actually. Yeah, there is a feeling when you said consequences, I totally agree with you when you said that. I think, yes, we're left hanging, we're in the air, and we want something to happen
Yeah.
next. That's so true, very, very true. But I suppose maybe that's the idea of of an extremely short story. It's the shortest story I've ever read, I would say. And that's the only way it can never be, that you can't really tie up all the loose ends. There isn't enough space, really. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm sure you remember, of course, yesterday we went to the end of the story. So this is the second opening, and then the final opening is the end of the story. So it's such a short story. Yeah. So I think credit to the author. I think he's done an amazing job there, and also to the translators too. Yeah. Um, So we'll maybe have time for me just to read the other sort of text on this page on the right hand side where my cursor is. So I'll read it perhaps to you this time, and then maybe we'll tie the class end the class in a few minutes after that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so so from the top then, so it starts out with the system of equation. So the system of equations describing the process took up millions of pages, and it was hard for me to imagine what kind of genius this was that could fill up so many reams of paper. After a few years, when the scientific technology progress, when the scientific and technological process, progress, oh my goodness, progress had been tweaked and refined a bit more, it had become possible to transmit products made of different materials in the same way. Online trading reached its peak, and the level of well-being was measured by the size of individual transformers. The process of transmitting objects which had previously taken years. Lautréamont's needed 10 years to transfer his silver ingot to Argentina, took only hours, then only seconds, as new transference technologies were invented. After Lautréamont became the richest man in the world, he began to control its destiny. Transformation predetermined a new phenomenon, compilation. And there we go.
Reading. Perfect.
Well, I did struggle a little bit there. This little bit here. One thing to bear in mind is when we're reading out loud, of course, but almost always when books are written, they're really sort of meant to be read in your head. And when we read in our head, it sounds different to when you actually say it out loud. Um,
Yeah,
and so it's almost as if it's written to be said in your head, but not out loud. It's not being written as a speech that someone's to give, and I'm sort of giving it almost as a speech. So there is this sort of, it is awkward in a way. It's not, doesn't quite work in one sense. Um, so perhaps when the film is being made, and they had the book that the film was based on, they don't sort of just read from the book because it doesn't really always work out. The language doesn't work, and sometimes they have special writers there who translate the book into the film to make it suitable for the film. And we have the same sort of a little bit of an issue here, but so it definitely works when you're reading in your head, but reading it out loud it's just a bit tricky, I guess.
true.
But nothing really as such. Um, Anything you want to ask about that little bit there that I just read out? Any particular words that are
Mm.
tricky for you? I know I think we had equations last time, didn't we? Because I know you read out equations, and that's why I laughed and stopped at that point. So it just
Yeah,
reminded me
yeah,
equations. Yeah.
yeah, equations and equally, yeah, it is the same.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, they're related. Yeah, not exactly the
Yeah,
same thing, aren't they? But
yeah,
they
not
are
the same, yeah,
related. Yeah.
related. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Then I would like to ask about imagine, yeah?
Mm.
Did I say it correct, yeah? Imagine.
Um, you're getting better. Each time you're saying it, you're getting it better. Yeah. So yes,
Uh,
imagine. That's it. Imagine. Yeah, you've
imagine,
got it.
not
Yeah.
imagine, imagine. Yeah, okay, nice.
Yeah. I said they're pretty. I said both of those. When you're saying them there, they seem both acceptable. I would say. Imagine. Yeah.
Ah,
Um, if we just could pop it into the dictionary again, if it's working. In Have I spelt it correctly? No, I haven't, have I?
not little.
I've got too many eyes in it, I think, haven't I? So thank goodness it sorted it out for me. Yeah, my spelling is atrocious, so imagine. I forgot what I was going to say now. So I just really want to mention there's an E on the end, but the E is sort of redundant. It's not really doing anything. So in the past, it might have been doing something. And you'll find that a lot with English words. There are letters there that don't really do anything. They're sort of meaningless almost, but we still keep putting them there. So I don't know if your own language is like that. Definitely, English is all over the place. Um, because you may know the English language, it's sort of it's had so many influences throughout the years, out the centuries and millennia, that it's such a mishmash. So it's a massive mixing pot of different things. Yeah. So let's just listen to them say it anyway.
Imagine.
Oh, yeah. Imagine. Yeah. So at the end, he's sort of saying "jin" at the end. Imagine. Imagine.
Yeah, imagine.
Yeah, you've got it actually. Yeah, you've pretty much got it, I would say. Yes, you're sort of 95% score I'd give you on that. Well done. That's good. But the problem is, I guess, is remembering in 2 hours' time
Yeah,
how you did it. And so,
yeah,
so
yeah,
just write down some of those words maybe and come back to them in 2 hours. Perhaps pop them into this dictionary or something similar, just to remind yourself if you're not sure. That's one of the ways of doing it, I guess. So maybe if we'll call it a day there. So we'll end up on the Roman Rudin page.
yeah.
Okay. So the collection of works, because there's about 10 stories, I think, I realize now. So
Mhm,
the overall
mhm,
collection is called Strange Occurrence in the Region of the Heart by Roman Rudin. Um, and I think one of the stories of those 10 is actually called Strange Occurrence in the Region of the Heart. So it's a little bit confusing, but there we go.
mhm.
And obviously, I
Yeah,
take this to be a picture of the heart with some sort of
yeah, yeah.
a light ray
Lights.
bursting onto the heart. Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Right. Okay. We'll leave
Mm.
it there then.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for this lesson. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yep. And thank you very much for coming. And hope to see you next
Yeah.
time. And next time it
Um,
will be another story, a different story, hopefully, I think. So,
yeah. Is it going to be next week? Yeah, because I
yeah.
can't come tomorrow,
Oh
and
no, not tomorrow, but next week it'll be another story. That's it. From Roman Rudin.
from Monday. Yeah, probably it should be.
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
From Monday.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you again. Have a nice evening. Yeah.
Same to you.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.